Hello, hello, hello. Hi. Hi. I was thinking as we were going through the countdown, I want to introduce you as the energetic, bubbly, sunny Cheryl, who has accepted my invitation. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. And I'm very happy because it's sunny. So it perfectly fits me on a sunny day.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
This week you are absolutely matching. So just so you know, everyone, Cheryl is behind the screen as she's in real life. I saw her. She's just an energetic person. I'm excited for today. Full disclosure, her background is real. We
It's
talked
real.
about it.
It's
It's a
real. It's
massive,
real.
massive library of books. I love it. Obviously, I'm lucky enough to know you already, but I'll give you the floor to introduce yourself for anyone who hasn't met
Cool.
you.
Thank you so much. So my name is Sherelle Griffith. I am a business and marketing strategist. I actually am a chartered marketer that started up a marketing training and consultancy company to help service-based business owners. I'm really passionate about helping people to really shine online, to make content that helps them stand out, helps them to make sales and build a brand that is going to last them for years.
I love that. And this is obviously what we're going to be talking about. We were literally talking just behind the scenes about how September is that time where without wanting it, the things are just happening. It's just the wheels are in motion. So either you ride a train, either you don't want to ride a train, whatever that is. But I know we're going to be in for an exciting session. So I know you've mentioned you're passionate about what is it that you love the most about what you do in terms of helping people standing out?
I think the thing is, there are a lot of people that run really amazing businesses. They're really talented and they deliver a great service. But that is basically pointless if you aren't able to communicate that. And in today's world, if you don't have a strong enough online presence, like you can be really great, but you can see other people in your industry that are soaring above you. And actually your only defense isn't just to keep getting better, which is what a lot of people do. They want to train harder, they want to get more certifications, they want to improve that. I'm like, you have to learn how to be able to market yourself effectively.
I love that. And obviously, I know your focus is very much around entrepreneurs, but I do feel like what you're talking about pretty much applies to everyone. You know, whether you're an
Yeah.
entrepreneur running your own business, or you're a full-time employee, actually having the skills to brand yourself and to be visible and standing out, I think is something that is key. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Branding ourselves, standing out online, those are key words. Where do we start? Like if, for example, I'm someone who's like shy and I'm like, I don't know where to go. How do I make it work?
So actually, I mean, the thing you said about this is applicable to people that have a job as well. I think this is important that we realize now all of us have a digital footprint. All of us. And actually now, even if you're an employee, people will look that up as part of like you going through an application process. So actually it's about really being conscious and aware of what is going out there, what is out on the internet, and really understanding what do you want to be known for, what do you want people to think about when they see you online, and how are you going to really represent yourself. And some people find this like whole process a bit like inauthentic, and if like you're really creating it and it's not real. And I'm like, actually all it is about is making sure that you're like the things you really want to be known for are highlighted, and the things that you want to stay personal. And actually that is important. I think a lot of people get really scared that they think if they're gonna have to start putting themselves online, that means everyone needs to do everything and they've got to be this influencer. Like you can see you can see like my office. I'm not showing you the rest of my house. Like there's a difference, and actually you do have that control to work out, okay, what parts of my life am I willing to share, what am I willing to put in the public arena, and what do I want to keep private.
I think this is an important point because a lot of people feel like this is it. I'm like opening the curtain and they have to see everything. Well, they don't necessarily have to. So I think this is important. But the one thing I'm curious to hear you about, I think, like you said, digital footprint, whether you like it or not, you cannot avoid it. That's a thing. I feel like a lot of people are still resistant in the sense that they're afraid of being judged. They're afraid of, the whole thing of like, I'd like to be liked. So if I stand a point of, I don't know, saying, for example, I don't believe in the gender pay gap that is going to be bridged in 100 years, I feel it's going to take us 1,000 years. Like they're just afraid of being judged. So how do you overcome the fear of judgment?
I
Big
mean,
one.
the fear of judgment, I don't have an answer for that. Like if we lived in that world, life would be great. I still very much fear being judged. But I think you have to get to a point where you realize that there is more good than there is bad. And so I say this about even when people start to think, they worry like about the trolls and the negative things that will happen online to them. And I'm like, but if you are making more of a positive impact, that's what I use to drive me and focus on that. And the fact is, if you are putting out things that are going to divide people, that will annoy some people, and there will be some negative comments. And I'm never someone that's ever going to be like, that is not going to happen. That is a reality. But in the meantime, you could have helped how many other people on the other side. And so actually that is what I focus on instead.
I think this is really, really key. I like that. And I think a lot of people, again, put it on themselves to put themselves out there. But I feel like, of course, it starts with you, but it goes beyond you, in the sense that if you don't do it, then you're missing an opportunity to make an impact.
Yeah.
Again, if you run a business, like you're saying, you must have like the best customer service ever. If nobody knows about you or what you do, well, at some point, referrals might drop out. And for someone who is a full-time employee and who knows that they have opinions that they want to share, they need to stand in the ground and they want to make an impact, then you can influence other people who might be employee as well, who might be like you and who have been hiding. So if you don't do it for yourself, do it for the others that you'll make an impact on. I love that. All right. Let's pretend I've overcame my fear. I'm out there. It's scary. And I'm like, oh, but I'm still out there. How do I stand out?
So standing out for me is about really coming from two things. So one is like owning you. And so part of this can be really about understanding, as you said, some of those things you want to put out that might be dividing, like what is important to you, what are the topics you want to talk about, and what is like your point of view on them. Like how is it that you have an angle that might be different, or just like very clear stances. And sometimes that comes like from your values, for example. So people can talk about the same set of topics, but when you layer like a topic and your values together, that comes across differently. And values are like the basis of a strong brand, but also are really how people connect with one another. And that would be how you can start to build a community. Communities are built around like the values. So the fact, you mentioned about like the gender pay gap, that is something I am really passionate about. Like I am really passionate about the gender pay gap and the pension pay gap. And there's all the things where women are not making enough money. We don't make enough money, so we don't have enough money left over. We pay too much for all our things because of pink tax. Then we don't have enough to invest. So we don't have enough to retire with. And it's like a constant, So, I have clients that really resonate with that value. And that's why they come to work with me. So it's like, actually, what are your values and how are you able to put that out there? Also, like for business owners, there was like the word no one ever wants to run around from is this idea of niching. Like we live in a world now. We live in a world where actually you're not competing against someone that's just next door. You're not competing in your little local world. Actually, that is usually beneficial. And so actually what it means is, you can be probably much more opinionated, because if you used to be opinionated, if you used to like really own, especially if you're someone that classes yourself like as different, that would normally have alienated you. And if you were like, I'm only in a remit of like 100,000 people that are within a traveling distance from me to work my business, and now I've like made everyone hate me. But now, actually, what that does mean is in the like 8 million people around the world, actually by owning a niche and by really owning your values, you will gravitate the people that are right for you. And so it's just a different mindset. Like it's a bigger pool, so you can be more refined, you can niche down further, and you can own like your values and your point of view.
Okay, so if I summarize what you said, and I very much agree with that, we're talking about making sure you own and you talk about your values in a way, like you said, to attract the right people around you. You've also mentioned the importance of remembering that we're not talking about an offline presence, but an online presence that does mean the word is with you, which I think is important. I like what you said around the fact that essentially it also means that yes, maybe some people are not going to agree with you, but the ones that are going to resonate with you, that you're going to attract, are the ones who have the same values or share the similar belief and so on. And I think this is what's really important that people tend to forget about, is that they're like, okay, I'm gonna talk about my business because I want to have more clients, but they forget that actually putting yourself out there, standing out online, it actually means that you can create the community, like you were saying, of people that you really care about. I know for a long time, personally, I got hooked by just looking at a LinkedIn feed, how LinkedIn curated for me. And the minute I've made the difference of actually thinking about who are the people that I actually genuinely want to learn from, that I actually want to make sure I have in my circle, it made such a difference. And I think it's something that people tend to forget is standing out online is not just about you putting yourself out there, it's how much you are willing to receive from others and the nurturing relationship that you're going to be building.
Yeah, definitely. Like relationships are key both online and offline. Like human beings are not people, even if we are a solo business owner, you're not by yourself. Like actually building those relationships are important. Both I really think is actually as a peer level, building those people around you as a business owner, I find really important, as well as building those relationships and a community level that is going to enable you to generate clients through it.
Yeah, I think so. And what are your thoughts when it comes to, for example, committing to like a super specific plan, like, okay, I'm going to stand out, I'm going to give that content, I'll talk about that value, I'll do X, Y, and Z. Like, how do you make sure that once you clear on your values, you know what you want to do, you've got a plan that is not working against you?
Okay. I mean, it's funny because I am definitely a planner. So I'm someone that's very like, I've got it all organized out. My actual thing is really though, is to like start small and build up. And I think actually as well, what you said at the beginning about like the fear, actually for most people just to jump in, it is really scary. So it's actually like, how do you start to push your edge? How do you like
stretch the comfort zone?
Yeah, stretch your comfort zone. And sometimes that is about like the platform and the format. For example, I am much more risky with like what I would say in an Instagram story that I know is going to disappear after 24 hours than I am possibly like with a LinkedIn post. LinkedIn is probably the place where I feel the most amount of fear. So, and that's one that's it's the same with pretty much all of my clients. Everyone that's had a job before they started a business usually has the most amount of fear on LinkedIn. And so I'm like, well, actually, maybe it's about where do you stretch yourself? Is it a different platform? Is it a different format? For example, it might be, for example, that you decide like you find somewhere that you can stretch yourself. And then when you realize actually you've not been eaten alive, you've not died, actually everything's all right, then you can start to bring it out on other places. So that's always like a really good way to start stretching yourself. And then also in terms of like actually showing up, like part of standing out online requires you to show up like consistently, and that is something again a lot of people struggle with, is like start with something that's realistic, like from a frequency perspective. What can you actually commit to? Like, we're on LinkedIn right now, and it starts around what percentage of people never post anything on LinkedIn. They've left me right now, but it's such a small percent of people that actually do. So even if you are like, actually, I'm going to post one thing a week, like that would be massive compared to like everyone else out there. Could you not be like, actually, this is the best thing that's happened this week, and I could start with that, or this is something I want to share this week? Like, actually, that's a way for you to get going, and then you build up on that.
I think, okay, priceless tips, everyone. This is why we are here with Cheryl today. And I think you touched base on a very important point, which is the online world is so big and so varied that, like you said, you just have to pick the one thing that actually works for you. I mean, I'm super biased because I only see you on LinkedIn, but I forget that, yes, you probably are on Instagram, of course, and I've never seen you.
I think I'm much more fun on Instagram.
Right, people just come to Instagram. We'll just move this to Instagram. But I think this is, again, this is an important point that you're mentioning. And how did that work for you? Did you, for example, started with Instagram and then you go to LinkedIn? How did you make it happen for yourself?
So for me, Instagram was like where I started. That was the baby. And then over time I've added in. So LinkedIn I added in, and now I'm on TikTok every day. And again, even my frequency was like I just started somewhere maybe 3 times a week, and then I built up to 5, and now I'm every day on all 3 platforms.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
Is it not overwhelming for you?
It's not now because
you find a system.
Yeah, but I think because I built it up incrementally. So actually, for me, like by the time I added in TikTok, it was like I already was posting every single day on Instagram and LinkedIn. So then I just was like, okay, fine, here's another one. And actually, for most of last year, I was posting 2 or 3 times a day on TikTok. So now I feel like I'm living the dream, only posting once a week. It feels like I'm cheating. So, but this is what I'm saying about is the incremental. If you go from like when I look, sometimes when I'm doing presentations now and I see screenshots of like what used to be my content schedule, and I'd share them in a presentation, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like was that all I did? But it's because I've built it up over time. So now this is just my new normal, and that's why I say don't try and go from I've never posted anything and say like I'm going to post every single day, like on places. Like, don't do that. Choose one. Try once a week, twice a week, 3 weeks, build it up, then maybe add another one in. But like, that's how you can make it sustainable, and it just becomes part of like my normal working week, basically.
I love that. So anyone listening to this, Cheryl is a living, breathing example that you can just be consistent, show up on multiple platforms, and be fine, and actually enjoying it and thriving with it. Like you said, I think it's about making sure that you move things in increments. So anyone listening to this, ask yourself, what's the realistic next step I could take? As in, what can I commit to? Which I think is important as well, because I know when I started on LinkedIn, I would be like, okay, I'll do 1 to 2 a week. And then we did the program together. This is how we met, through the LinkedIn Accelerator program. It was like, every day you have to post. I was like, what? And now, I'm posting, but I'm doing Monday to Friday though. I'm not doing weekends. And I'm like, this is my new normal. Like you said, I think it's about defining what you want your new normal to be in a way that's comfortable to you.
And also, like, the fact you said, like, you do Monday to Friday, you take your weekend off, like, have your weekend off, enjoy your life. Like, you know, it's easy. Like, you have to find the balance, like mental health perspective of being like, what works for you. So I am someone that does schedule content. So actually, even though I might be posting every single day, that doesn't mean actually I'm on the
technically weekend, exactly.
And people do it different ways. Like, there are some people that love to like create, and like, you know, you can schedule stuff. You can create once a week and just schedule it out for the rest of the week. It doesn't mean you have to create every day. And I think as well, like, understanding that different like relationship between breaking it down between actually creating content and actually the distribution, and they're two very different things, and they don't have to happen at the same time.
It's a very important point, which is make sure that the technology works for you and not against you. Like, if you're overwhelmed about the idea of like going to LinkedIn, logging to the platform and posting, like you said, potentially look at avenues and options for you to schedule some content here and there, if that's helpful. I think that's an important point. All right, let me ask you from the other side, what are like the biggest mistakes that you've seen with people trying to stand out online?
Oh, I don't think I've seen that many people where I think, oh, they're trying and it's not working. I suppose where people struggle, I suppose.
Yeah, the challenges where we could go for that. Yes.
If we look at that, I think it can be where you can be creating, but it's not like resonating with anyone. And so actually that means you're not actually managing to like pull the people in. Like, actually getting awareness on platforms is difficult now. There's no denying that. And building an audience takes time. And I think for that as well, sometimes it's about like being really generic. And this is one of the things now I'm really talking about. Really, we have two things in terms of like, depending on what, from a social perspective, really, we're like, okay, we have text and we have video. And these are the two like formats that you're playing with. And like, yeah, you got design, but we'll leave that for now. And it's like, you know, the rise in AI means generic copy is not going to be good enough anymore. It was never good enough anyway. Like, it wasn't stand out, but it's going to become increasingly more so that if you want to stand out, actually you need to have a very strong tone of voice, and that sits within brand. But I think it's a bit of brand that for a long time a lot of people didn't give much focus to. Like, a lot of people are much more like into their lovely colors. Like, you've got your colors, like people have their colors, they have the logo, but people have that type of stuff, like from a visual perspective, and they've not drilled down into actually like, what is the tone of voice, like how do they speak, how does that connect with people? And that's definitely one of the things now that I think you can't skip that as we move forward, because actually content creation is going to become more and more, it's going to be easier for more people to create content, and therefore you have to make sure that it's like, this is genuine, this is come from someone's heart and from someone, a real person, not just a computer that's generated it. So that's one side of it. The second is just hiding behind like your logo and basically never putting your face out, never getting on video. Like, video is something that so many people are really, really scared for. And again, in a world where now we're going to question stuff, like we see pictures, we know like AI made this. Someone sent me a picture recently and they're like, why does it have a third arm? And I was like, it's because it's AI generated. Like, the tell of AI will give you like an extra arm or extra hand or extra finger. So I was like, okay, here we go. Like, yeah, you can. And don't get me wrong, video is already moving into that space. Like, there's a whole thing where you can record your voice, give it a script, and so they're going to edit it uses the script to make a video of you. So we're already getting into that territory. But, you know, hopefully at least the things like this, which are live, people are like, that's real. And so I think that's the thing going into the future. It's going to be like, well, with more and more people, once like the general person is really aware of how much this has been done by AI, like what is left to help you be really human, and video, especially live video, is really going to be part of that.
Yeah. And I think, to be honest with you, for a long time, I found it overwhelming thinking this way of like, oh, where are we going with AI and everything? But I've come across and flipped it upside down in the sense that I feel like it's a fantastic opportunity to strip down the layers of superficiality that you might have. You know, I mean, I haven't been online for too long. I've been there for 4 years, but I'm assuming probably 10 years ago, like having a nice visual and like something nice and sleek before the Canva era, I was like, oh my God, they know what they're doing. Like they've got a great logo. I like the colors. I'm working with them. You know what I mean? And I think it was like the surface level. And like you said, now it's like you have to really show what's underneath the tip of the iceberg. You really have, like you said, to really show the human in you and you know, what are the things that the people are buying from. And again, for some people, it could be overwhelming or it could be challenging, but I think it's the best gift that you can give to yourself is like finding out why and who you are authentically, so you can serve your client best, or you can be the right professional in your right industry and attract the right people. It's a tough one.
Yeah, it definitely is tough. Like, I'm not pretending it's an easy one.
Yeah,
but like you said, I think it's like, I'm not scared of the AI, but I think it's just, you have to be aware of how that will change how people are consuming content, and the questioning people will put around content. And so it's like, well, how do I then really show this is real? And so that's for me where like, one, developing a stronger tone of voice is really going to be helpful, and two, using video. Like, yeah, the days of hiding behind your logo, I think, are long gone.
Even though some people still in 2023, they're like, okay, let me just make sure I've got this right. I mean, I want to make sure that, you know, they're spending so much time on that.
Yeah, and actually I did a video, I think last week, it was like about like people even wanting to make picture perfect videos, and this idea like it stops them, and this idea that could we want everything to be perfect. And I get that, like I absolutely understand it, and I think having like high standards for everything that you create and you put out there is not a bad thing. But it's like, actually you have to realize if it is getting to a point where it's procrastination, and it's getting to a point where it's actually stopping you from creating. It's like, if you've got high standards, meet them, or lower, like even meet them and get that content out there, or realize that that is not maintainable, it's not achievable for you based on everything else that's going on in your life, and just like drop the standard a little bit. And the reality is, most people that have really high standards, them dropping it is not, they're going to put out something that's completely rubbish. Do you get what I mean? Like, there's a big difference. I feel like a lot of people think, oh no, I'm going to like, it's going to be awful. Like, no, but most people's standards here, yours is here. Yeah. So even if you just give yourself a little break,
you've got margin.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I've dropped my standards. You can see this disgusting furniture behind me, which is not mine, obviously, because I'm renting, and this awful carpet. But I'm moving house shortly, so hopefully I'll be able to raise up my standard. But if I would have left this carpet and this piece of wood holding me back, we would not be here today. So here we are. So let me ask you, how does that look like? Because we've talked about, okay, overcoming the fears, and we've talked about the different things that you can put in place, and we've talked about AI and actually the importance of being human. What are the benefits? Like, what have you seen personally, or the work that you've done with your clients? What are the benefits? Why should I stand out online?
Honestly, if you manage to stand out online, it will absolutely open opportunities like nothing else. Like we met in person. Like, I am all for actually getting out your house and networking. Like, I'm not against it in any way, shape, or form. But content can allow you to impact hundreds, thousands, millions of people from the comfort of your own home. Or, do you get what I mean? It's that easy. And in that same sense, then, like, as obviously me as a business owner, like me creating content enabled me to go like internationally to country. I would get clients from countries I never heard of, never visited, because of content. And so when if we take it back to what I said ages ago around, actually, when you've got a really strong point of view and you own that, you can start to attract people from around the world. Then actually that's what it's about, is because content will go through all these borders, and you're no longer as a business necessarily like pigeonholed to only be the impact. And if you're only meeting people one-on-one, like, you've only got as much as your time. One piece of content can reach so many people. And so that's why standing out online is like, actually, And even if you're someone that is in a leader, someone that is in an organization, someone's in a business, for example, if you are trying to move up, and like there are certain people now, more businesses are more on like actually what are the brands of the people that work for them. They want people that actually do have influence, and actually standing out online does mean you have influence. It does mean you can change the world.
Well, I was already convinced about why I was there, but thank you for convincing, hopefully, the others, because you reconvinced me once again. Yeah. All right, conscious of time, this is what happens when you're having fun. Obviously, it flies. We've got 5 more minutes, less than that. Any final top tips, anything that you feel you want to share for anyone coming to this session and be like, okay, I want to stand out online. I've learned a lot, but any other things that we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
What would I say? I think really getting clear on who you want to be bringing into your community and your online world. I think
we haven't talked that much about that. We implicitly talked about it, but I think this is a very important point.
But I think that's the thing, because actually it's not about standing out. Sometimes people are like, well, I can stand out you can do things to stand out in a negative way, if that makes sense. It's easy to stand out. We can all think of the things we could do that would make us stand out, but that's not going to have a positive impact. So it's like, actually, for the people I want to be attracted, for the people I want to be in my world, how do I stand out for them? And I think owning that and really getting clear on that and really creating with that view of how you build that community, that will help you to stand out. And then really it's about being in the game for long enough. Like this wasn't how to stand out online super fast.
True. Spoiler alert, it takes years.
Yeah, but actually that's the thing, is that actually I think when people talk about stand out, like we do think about things like virality, and actually that's not what I mean by standing out. Actually what we're on about is standing out and being remembered, and actually remembered is the thing that's the most important. And that actually is something that recently I've had multiple occasions where like I was trying to recommend someone and then I couldn't find them, and I would be trying to go back through my LinkedIn or go through Instagram and I couldn't find them, and it happened twice in the space of a week. And then I realized that is the actual real aim, is how to be remembered, so that
top of mind.
And actually like sometimes it's top of mind because someone wants to work with you themselves, but sometimes they want to recommend you, and it's like, actually if you can't be remembered, that's why I'm always saying to people, make sure you say your name, make sure you say your business name. Actually that type of repetition is really important, because I could remember someone's color, but I couldn't refine them. I could just remember this color that their post was in, and I was like, you've now lost out on potential business because of that. So it's standing out online for me is very much around, this is about getting some people, but we're not talking about you need to have millions of followers, but it's about how do you manage to be remembered. That's my actual mark, standing out.
I love that. Thank you so much for your energy, for your positivity, for your practical tips. So everyone listening to this, here's to being remembered. And I think a couple of people couldn't make it live, but obviously this is the beauty of LinkedIn. We are here with you forever. Yes. So any questions that you have from watching the replay, anything you want to share, hit Sharon and myself will be happy to answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.